Great North Run starts just over there alongside Newcastle's town moor, and this was once the most horrible place in the city because this is the place where criminals were executed in public, the innocent as well as the guilty. The worst perversion of justice was in 1650. A witch finder arrived from Scotland and offered to root out any witches. The Puritan City Corporation were thrilled. They sent out a man with a bell and invited anyone to name the person they suspected. 30 accused were tested by the witch finder. He stripped them to look for witch marks, that's blemishes on the skin. And then he pricked those blemishes with a bodkin. If they bled, they were innocent. But if they didn't bleed, they were guilty and sentenced to hang. Of course, it was a fake bodkin, a sleight of hand. You see, the witch finder was being paid 20 shillings for every witch he found. 13 women and 1 man were hanged here on the town moor gallows, and thousands turned out to watch. You'll be pleased to hear the witch finder was suspected of fraud and arrested in Scotland. He confessed to sending 220 people to their deaths, and he was hanged. It's a sort of justice, but no consolation for his innocent victims or their families. Until the middle of the 1800s, this patch of land continued to be used for public executions. The east gate of the city was known as the Gallows Gate, and to this day Newcastle United Football Club still has a Gallowgate end.
So you're a Newcastle United supporter?
No, I'm from Sunderland. I'm a black cat.
Black cat? Which?
Huh? Huh? Of course, the iconic image of the Great North Run is the Tyne Bridge. But over here on the runner's right is the High Level Bridge, built by a Geordie, Robert Stevenson, in 1849. For the first time, Queen Victoria could travel from London to Balmoral on her staycation without getting off the train. So naturally, they invited her to open the bridge. The opening ceremony was followed by a grand dinner at the Station Hotel. It's said that after the dinner was finished, the manager of the hotel went up to Queen Victoria and handed her the bill. Victoria was furious. She vowed never to look on the city of Newcastle again, and every time the train passed through, she drew the curtains. Draw the curtain, you Madge, and you'll miss the Great North Run.
Insolent puppy! Officer, arrest that man! Well, get after him, man! Run, man, run!
Oh, I am not amused.
"5 miles into the run and we pass one of the most important places in the history of the world. The coals from Newcastle were mainly mined on this side of the river. Felling Road was lined with pits. On the other side of this church, in 1812, the Felling pit stood. That year, mine gas exploded and killed 92 men and boys. Thomas Gordon was 8 years old. A third of the victims were under 16. Here in St Mary's Church is a memorial to the 92 who died so that thousands of others could live. Over 1 million runners have run past here, and not a lot of people know that. But at least the disaster prompted the engineers of the day to come up with a design for a miner's safety lamp. George Stephenson, an engineer from Newcastle, came up with the Geordie lamp, and Sir Humphrey Davy, a Cornish chemist, invented the Davy lamp, and both claimed they were the first.
The principles upon which a safety lamp might be constructed I stated to several persons long before Sir Humphrey Davy came into this part of the country.
An ignorant northern pitman could not have invented something as sophisticated as this.
The truth, both were based on an earlier design by a Sunderland doctor, Dr. William Clanny. He didn't make the fortunes that these two did, but at least they gave him a medal. Jarrow was one of the most important places in the world in the 700s. Of course, in the late 700s, the vicious Vikings made their famous attack on the monastery at Lindisfarne. But when they got here, the Viking terror nearly came to a sticky end. The monastery here at St Paul's was the centre of cultural learning, and they had the great historian Bede. A year after the Lindisfarne raid, the Vikings sailed up the River Tyne to plunder this monastery here in Jarrow. But this time, the locals were ready for them, and they met armed resistance. A Viking leader was killed, and he was sent back to his ship, chopped into little pieces. The Viking misery wasn't over. A storm wrecked their ships, and the ones who made it safely to shore were slaughtered by the Saxons. The Viking threat disappeared for 40 years. They don't mess around in Jarrow.
It's no use. He's too fast for us.
Yeah, it'd be easier catching more farrow.
Mo?
It's short for monk.
Oh.
The final mile. And most runners agree it's the longest mile since Mr. Imperial invented measurement. And it starts just here, north of Marsden Grotto. The grotto is a large cave blasted into the cliffs that we run alongside. And in 1782, a man called Jack the Blaster and his wife Jessie borrowed some explosives from a local quarry and turned a small cave into a large one to live in. They also built this zigzag stairway down the cliff. Their odd choice of accommodation attracted visitors, which the couple supplied with refreshments at a cost. It's suggested they also supplied the smugglers that used the caves along these cliffs to hide their cargoes. A legend says that one smuggler, John the Gibber, turned informer, but the smugglers escaped by dumping the cargo along there at Suter Point. When the smugglers found John the Gibber, they put him in a basket and lowered him down a shaft known as Smuggler's Hole, where they left Gibber to starve to death. They feasted in front of his eyes and then used him as a target for their rubbish. It's said that on cold, dark, stormy nights, the wails of Gibber's ghost can be heard above the sounds of the howling winds.
I heard you, lad. Those be the ghostly moans of John the Gibber.
Actually, they're the ghostly moans of runners at the finishing line.
He could be right.